Welcome to What's the Story Dublin, the official Dublin City Council podcast with me, your host, Michael Ryan. This podcast deep dives into the work of all the moving parts that make up Dublin City Council. It also shares news of the Council's latest initiatives and exciting events. On today's episode, we have the City Architect, Andrew Devonport. Andrew, you're very welcome to the podcast this week. I want to start by asking you, I suppose you're the City Architect, a very grand sounding title, but what does the City Architect actually do, and what does your office actually do in terms of its work for the city?
Well, look, I suppose to start, I'm the type of who would get shy away from a grand title. They're the City Architect, It sends kind of like shivers down your spine, really. And I'm certainly not that kind of natural kind of at the front of the pack. They're kind of a person. I'm much more kind of happy,
behind the scenes, getting the work done.
Getting work done, knowing what the agenda is, knowing what you need to do, and just join the dots and getting there. But look, the opportunity came up, and look, I had to throw my hat in the ring. It's that whole thing. You come with the outside, kind of going, oh, it should be like this, it should be like that. Well, look, you've got to kind of put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, you haven't been the architect for that long, have you?
No, look, it's short. Look, I'm not counting the days, but it's 8 months.
8 months, right? Okay. Yeah,
it's only 8 months. Look, there is lots there to do. The big ships take a long time to kind of turn and kind of like steer. Not that there's a full kind of a 360 or anything needed, or 180 rather.
Yeah.
But it's certainly there are kind of opportunities there, shall we say?
Yeah.
And look, and that's my role to recognise those opportunities. They're within the context, leading the city architects, but within the context of the council itself, which obviously is a big animal.
Yeah. So how many people are in the city architect's office? I mean, what sort of team do you lead, roughly speaking? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
there's 74.
74, right? Yeah. Okay.
Now that runs across architects, administrative, their staff, inspectors. In terms of their building inspectors, we also have their department, or like a sub-department, which looks after dangerous buildings. Mm-hmm. So, look, anything what's out there in terms of dangerous, like a danger, or is they're reported into the public, it comes to our desk, and then an inspector would go out and look at that and kind of see if it needs their contractors there to go in to make things like safe. You often get kind of fascias hanging off buildings on the public street, those kind of interventions. Yeah. And then we have engineers as well, so they would help in terms of advice, in terms of get projects. They do look after the spire in terms of the maintenance there.
Yeah.
So, and then just in terms of get projects there, we have in terms of the team. It's all about kind of having your own get projects and just kind of working them. But
are you guys actually, because this is good, informative for me as well, even, are you guys actually designing buildings, or
we are.
You're up there with a set square and a if I think back to my days in school, I presume it's a bit more sophisticated than that, but you're up there with actually designing things on boards, and although I suppose it's all probably computer generated stuff now, is it, or is it?
No, well, look, we are, and look, we are designing. Look, I'd certainly like to be doing more in-house projects. At the moment, we have a huge range of projects. Obviously, we can't do all those in-house. There, we do need their consultant, their support.
Okay,
it's better to bring those forward. But certainly, I'd like to kind of move the balance a little bit more in terms of in-house projects, even up to planning stage or beyond into detail. Their design in terms of their resources, but certainly that kind of ownership, that kind of, because our industry, lots of industry, it's always changing. There's always new regulations. There's to keep abreast of. So look, you need to be at the rock face, I think, in terms of to keep that kind of knowledge base and that kind of experience high. You have to be able to produce kind of quality buildings.
Yeah. What are the big projects? I mean, I know you're only in 8 months, as you said, but what are the bigger projects that the City Architect's office is involved in at the minute?
Well, I suppose just to give context, the City Architects sits in the housing department.
Okay.
So my a kind of assistant, kind of their chief executive, Mick Mulhern. So he's by the housing. He looks after all things housing. So our kind of day job, if you like, 70% of the office is housing related, housing delivery. That's kind of going from their site, their suitabilities, their site investigations in terms of forward planning, in terms of their pipeline, looking at a site and see what it can offer, through to actually kind of the sites we have now on various kind of stages between like planning, their kind of on-site, their kind of their defects, their stage or whatever. So we have the full gambit in terms of range. And then in addition to the office, we have bare kind of architects and engineers who look after kind of the civic and amenity, which would be public realm, but also kind of the existing buildings, and we would also deliver libraries and things like that for other bed departments there within. So if you like, we're a service air department, and we provide a service air to other bed departments within the wider council.
How often do you get to work on the really kind of sort of, I suppose for want of a better phrase, the really sexy projects, like, or people might think the housing stuff obviously is hugely important, especially at the minute, but it's the kind of, I don't want to say day to day, because obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but do you get much opportunity to work on really big sort of projects that are going to be, people are going to be looking at in like 50 or 100 years, that are still going to be in Dublin, people will still see around the place, or does that sort of come around fairly rarely these days?
Well, I suppose it's rarely. I suppose what would spring better to mind is a College Green, Grow College Green,
of course, yeah,
which is a major project. Now that's the primary the driving department is engineering in terms of the old ENT department. Now where in there kind of as an advisor, there's a lady there in terms of architect. Jill McGovern, who's in there with the engineer, Marie, as an equal driving the project on. And that's a great project for DCC in terms of everyone involved. I think
that's a really exciting project, isn't it?
For their kind of projects, you do need all of their DCC better buy into it. It's not just kind of a project you can do in isolation. And that is something we need to work against wholly in the council, is lots of good people doing lots of good projects in isolation, but it's bringing those together, raising the bar, better awareness in the context of everything what's going on, metros and all those kind of things, better give a fully coordinated approach.
College Green is such an iconic part of the city, really, and when you look back on old photos of Dublin or old paintings, or they often show College Green, in that area in front of Trinity College, and obviously it's a very historic part of the city. It must be exciting to work on a project that is going to impact on such a vital part of the city, and will be around hopefully for a long time to come. And the changes that are potentially coming there shortly will be big changes for the city, and they'll be in place for a long time, hopefully.
Look, it will be in terms of vibrant kind of city that will give another space within the city to gather, better hold events, etc. So that just adds another kind of their dimension to the city. The city needs to attract people in. It needs to, service other people who live in the city. Better have those event spaces there to make it a lively destination orientated kind of their place. So that's one of those. It's a great project. As I can't claim to have much involvement in terms of being in there 8 months, but look at the people who have delivered have done a fantastic job.
And are there any other big ones? I mean, obviously the big ones don't come around, as I said earlier, every day. But are there any other big ones that are really going to have an impact on the city going forward?
Yeah, I'm going to say a smaller project.
Yeah,
41 Parnell, Square. Look, there are. And look, everyone will be kind of aware of this, but there are empty buildings, they're kind of underused buildings in the city. 41 Parnell Square is a pilot, if you like, to push forward as a readaptation, a reuse in terms of housing. Look, it's Parnell Square, it's near the hospital, essential worker housing. It's a great opportunity in terms of to bring that as a model. And look, and maybe hopefully that goes well. It's a model we can get lots of learnings from, and move that and work into occupying those empty buildings, etc. The derelict sites. Because look, I think everyone would be aware that is an issue of the city as a council. We all need to move into.
We were talking just off air before we started the pod, and you were saying you've been in Dublin for about 25 years, but you're obviously you were telling me from Durham originally in the UK. I just wonder, in terms of Dublin as a city and the architecture of Dublin in general, what's your impressions of Dublin in terms of its architecture as someone who came in from the outside?
Look,
I know you've been here a long time, but
it is a great, like a vibrant, city with huge potential in terms of the river. Look, like any city on the river has huge potential in terms of the Georgian architecture, Victorian, but then also the new buildings what are going up in terms of the Docklands, etc. And those kind of opportunities, there's huge opportunities there for Dublin. There to reaffirm itself as a major city, a major European city.
Earlier on, I touched very briefly on sort of computer generated architecture, if I can use that phrase, versus sort of the sort of maybe you can tell I never did architecture. The traditional sort of pencils and rulers, etc., etc. Like things like CGI and all of that sort of stuff. Is that a threat to architecture or an opportunity for architecture going forward?
Look, I think in terms you probably also think about AI as well in terms of that. Look, it's already in our businesses. It's across all our businesses. So look, you have to learn, you have to adapt, you have to use it to suit your own agendas. And look, and that's about asking the right questions to get the right kind of result. I'm sure there's lots of people out there who are grappling with AI and trying to use it and play with it and to see what use it can be, good or bad. Obviously, everything has to be sense checked, etc. But look, it's certainly a changing time there for architecture, but then also other industries.
You mentioned public realm a few minutes ago, Andrew. People, I suppose, listening might think that, okay, this person is an architect, they design buildings, but there's also other things you design. I mean, just talk us through public realm. How does that work, and what sort of stuff are you involved in there?
Public realm, as I'd defined, public realm, it's the space between the buildings.
Okay.
So that's all public realm. So at the moment, in terms of DCC, that's probably the driver for for funding is engineered, based, bare kind of NTA, cycle lanes, etc., etc. So that's where the public realm sits with. So we have a section within our department who feeds into that, and kind of designs in their collaboration with the engineers, those public realm, their kind of improvements, infrastructure. College Green is a part of that. Part of the funding for College Green is NTA, cycle lanes, etc. So that is the driver for much of the interventions in terms of their public realm, as well as their kind of upgrades in terms of the services, their sewers, water infrastructure, etc.
Do you find that the public are very interested in architecture and in what you do?
Look, I think so. No, absolutely. Look, everyone has an opinion, and that's absolutely right and correct. So, people. I mean, I think it is back to the basics. People are concerned about sort of pavements, roads, etc., etc. But it's about the inhabiting a space, looking around, feeling nice, comfortable, safe in a space. That type of thought. We want everyone there kind of in the city to feel safe and comfortable and enjoy it. And that's probably another kind of agenda for a DCC is the greening of the city. Bringing back where those public realm opportunities they present themselves. The trees, the sustainable urban drainage, SUDs there for short, bringing in those opportunities, just to green up the city and get the nature back and maintain it in the city. So there's lots of kind of facets there, shall we say?
Because architecture is not just about the sort of bricks and mortar of a building or of a street, etc. It's plays a very important role in terms of the sort of the vibe of a street, doesn't it, or the atmosphere of an area. People like to look at well, they like to look at nice buildings, I suppose, if I could put it at its simplest form. It gives a nice atmosphere, I suppose, to a place, doesn't it?
Yeah. I suppose from an urban design perspective, I suppose the starting point would always be the user, the pedestrian, the person in the street, eye level, and then it's that
the sort of functional aspect of it, isn't
that
it?
experience in terms of, be it a shared service or like a width of like a pavements, etc. All those minor things in terms of buggies, etc. The accessibility, the curbs, the drop curbs, those kind of basic kind of uses, but then layering in, in terms of where the opportunities are, the airspace is there to linger, to sit, there to meet, arrange, there to meet with your friends. Look, I cycle through town all the time in terms of like in and out there to work, and it's great to see people outside, kind of bars, restaurants, etc. It's that life, it's that animation on the street, which then attracts other people into those areas, because everyone likes to kind of get socialise there, people watch a little bit and just kind of enjoy the space. If you can get a sunny side of the street, all the better. So it's just kind of building up that kind of atmosphere and having a kind of urban kind of backdrop, which facilitates that.
Do you find when you sort of leave Dublin, if you go on holidays and stuff like that, are you kind of constantly looking at architecture in other places? You're never kind of fully switched off? Is it always kind of on your mind? Or
look, I think it'd be the same for all architects in terms of when they go on holiday, the kids get drawn along and we're pointing out things, and the kids,
no interest.
No interest. But look, yes, we are going to better Copenhagen, etc. Those kind of like European like cities which we all know and love. But look, it's about kind of just experience their atmospheres, and look, there are always kind of takeaways, be it their historical, their contemporary, or whatever. There's always kind of like takeaways which kind of stick in your mind. Then when you're looking at something, you think, maybe if I just like get twisted like I saw in Excess City, then that might kind of work, etc.
Yeah.
And you haven't said that. I mean, obviously there are kind of lots of European cities who don't do things as well as we do.
Okay.
I was I guess
you're going to name and shame somehow, are you?
I was in Brussels.
Brussels. Wow.
Yeah, and just a couple of days, and the lack of drop curbs, accessibility, etc.
Right.
Was noticeable when you're obviously used to our own kind of like city, and like people would walk around our city and not really notice the drop curbs unless you are.
Just explain to people what drop curbs are.
Sorry, it's basically it takes you from the pavement across another surface, with a ramp, or a dished curb maybe is a better kind of more familiar term. So and in your Brussels, I was walking around, I was thinking, where are the drop curbs? And there was quite high curbs. So if you were a wheelchair user, you'd find it really hard to access the city, access the parks, etc. The parks had their steps but no ramps, and it was I was kind of scratching my head, because we're kind of well advanced in that, and rightly so in terms of accessibility. All buildings, all places have to be accessible there to all, and that would be a strong a driver for not only our department but all architects, architects out there.
Tell us what other cities were better than in Europe.
Well, I think it's different kind of their dimensions really, in terms of, because look, in terms of, I think in terms of Dublin obviously has kind of a Temple Bar. It has a clustered approach there, which I think works really well. That is something in terms of an opportunity. I think those kind of quarters there, the clustered approach, needs to be reinforced. They're kind of in that public realm strategy again. In terms of it's just getting that kind of mix in an area, so everything's in an area. So it's just reinforcing the walkable city. If everything's in an area, then you don't have to walk miles. It's round the corner. It's 15 minutes away. That kind of thought process. So it's just looking at the city, breaking it down into quarters, into districts, and getting those kind of uses into those. residential as well, like a good mix of residential, just bringing it back to the day job of residential.
Yeah. Speaking of bringing it back, just in terms of your own office, the City Architect's office, what are some of the other services and things that you do that maybe we haven't touched on so far? Or are there other things that you offer, other services you offer, or other things that you do?
Well, look, I suppose, again, with their, as a resource, bear to be like get called upon in terms of master planning, etc. Those like a public realm, like strategies I mentioned in terms of the engineering side of it, in terms of the maintenance on the spire, which in terms of our engineering sections looks after dangerous building, which I think is a key. We do have conservation accredited architects in the office, which obviously have that great learning, and they can offer the rest of us advice when we are looking at historical buildings, etc. So it's just a service for the wider council. I suppose if I do get nothing else in my tenure, it's kind of opening up the department and say, look, we are there as a service, kind of use us kind of thing. Allow us to get involved in those projects.
How do you maintain the spire?
Well, there's a whole kind of a structure inside, which has to be monitored. It does move, in terms of wind loads, etc. So it's monitoring that and making sure that it's within its parameters.
Right.
So bare connections, etc. are all as you should be. There's no kind of stress, cracks, etc., etc. So it's just making sure it's as it should be. Obviously, there's water controls, etc. In terms of water gets in, it's controlling it, that it gets out, etc. So there is a day job there just to keep that going, even though it sits there looking pretty.
Yeah. Here's a question, and you might not know the answer. If you go inside the spire, how high could a person climb inside the spire in terms of maintaining it, etc., or can it all be done at ground level?
Oh,
or is that a question that's thrown, No,
it is. Look, I think in terms of getting up to it, I could be wrong. I'm thinking it's either 100 meters or 73 meters. It's in that order.
Okay.
The engineer will be listening to this. He'll be cursing me for not because we just had a conversation there the other day in terms of the maintenance of it, etc. In terms of getting up inside.
Yeah. Very good. We're coming close to the end, Andrew. I just wanted to ask you one or two more things. In terms of trends when it comes to architecture and best practice and maybe looking to the future and stuff like that, are there things that the layman or woman mightn't be aware of that are sort of coming down the tracks that people will see more of in the future when it comes to architecture that they'll see out and about in this city or other cities?
No, I think in terms of it's not really a trend for architecture. I suppose in terms of the strategy or the move for DCC is that a greening of the city.
Right.
There are probably opportunities, more pedestrianisation. I mean, the pedestrian in terms of the hierarchy has to be at the top, better than the cyclist, better than the car, etc. But I think get key on that, and I think that's where College Green is a good example in terms of that engagement with the retailers, that in terms of what's coming on, the engagement with the public, etc. That was a kind of a model, if you like, in terms of how that's gone through for that better engagement with all the stakeholders. So there's no surprises, but there's a dialogue there. In terms of understanding other people's kind of priorities, etc. So, and then rolling out the project, which kind of ticks the box as much as possible in terms of all those stakeholders who actually use that kind of area, who have a business on the street, etc.
My last question: You're in the council 8 months now. How are you finding it so far? You enjoying it?
The weekends I need.
So you're busy.
I will indeed. Yeah. Look, in terms of I kind of, as lots of people do, I'm sure, in terms of notes in your phone, you think of things as you're cycling home, etc. You get back, you put it in your phone, and then you come back, or you go on the laptop at the weekend or whatever, and but then it's hard to get through your list.
Yeah.
In terms
the list gets longer and longer.
Exactly. So that's the thing. I need to do get better of get carving out get time in my diary where I can actually get through my list of to dos.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it just gets longer and longer and longer, and your head gets kind of busier and busier.
Yeah.
But I suppose I wouldn't mind just kind of ending. We didn't touch on housing much, and I suppose obviously that is a key driver to that. So in terms of our project, we do have lots of good projects on where the books are completed on site. Going forward, we have our pipeline. We have a pipeline for the next kind of 4 years.
Yeah, I've been attending a lot of housing launches and openings and things in the last 6 months or a year. I really noticed that. That
so there's a real kind of ramping up again, working with all departments, housing ourselves, getting this pipeline, market engagement, getting better word out, better all the contractors tier 1, tier 2. This is coming down the tracks. Gear yourself up. 4,000 houses. Well, over 4,000 houses next 4 years. That's a key driver for ourselves and a key message to put out there, I think.
Absolutely. And a good note to finish on. Andrew, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much for coming on the pod this week.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
And thanks again to today's guest, Andrew Devonport. I'd also like to extend my thanks to our audio engineer and editor, Rob Fay. This podcast was produced by Shane McIntyre and myself, Michael Ryan, and recorded in the Central Library studio. Be sure to spread the word if you're enjoying What's the Story Dublin, and like and subscribe for future episodes. Take it handy.